Monday, October 21st, 7 p.m. Call to order, roll call. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item C, identify possible conflicts of interest. Seeing none, moving on to item D, public comment period, correspondence. At this time, I will recognize those members of the public who have indicated a desire to address the council. Upon recognition by me, persons may address the council first stating their name and address. The council may act on emergency matters introduced by members of the public. Are there any public comments? Are there any public comments? Are there any public comments? Seeing none, moving on to item E, approval of minutes from the October 8th, 2024 regular meeting. We have a motion by Alderman Giles, second by Alderman Weigel. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you. Staff updates?
I'm not aware of any this evening.
Mayor's comments. Once again, I will read the in-person absentee voting hours, which start tomorrow, October 22nd, through Saturday, November 2nd, 2024. Monday through Thursday, 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Fridays, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday from 8 a.m. to noon. No voting may take place on Monday, November 4th. It is also on our website, or you can come right to the office, and there's postings all over. And I just wanted to let everybody know, again, tomorrow, October 21st, starts absentee voting. And that is all I have for this evening. Item H, council comments. Item I, city administrators updates.
Been kind of crazy. I haven't really prepared much here. I guess the one thing I would note is based upon our last meeting moments ago, that we are not going to have a budget meeting on the 28th or the 30th, but we are on the 29th. So here's what we're looking at. At 5:30, we'll be meeting with the CDA and with our consultant from Vanderwall and Associates to talk about the RFQ, request for qualification process with renovating the Weinbrenner building. And then that meeting is booked from 5:30 to 7. I don't know if it'll take that entire time, but then at 7 o'clock, we'll have the council meeting on the budget. I had initially planned until moments ago to have that 5:30 meeting at the Second Street Community Center. However, given that there's a subsequent meeting of the council, I may look to see if we can possibly move it all over to here. But anyway, mark your calendar for 5:30 with the CDA and the consultant and 7 o'clock on the budget. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Item J, reports from commissions, boards, and committees. Seeing none, consent agenda, minutes, reports. We have a motion by Alderman Varsho, second by Alderman Spiros. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
Consent agenda passes. Thank you. And we can skip item L because there's no action on removed items. Item M, presentation report on the 2024 season of Vanderhay Waters, presented by Amanda Bruce, Recreation Manager.
Hello. I brought a couple paper copies, but this was sent out electronically earlier. Does anyone need one?
Microphone right by the little red button, or it's not red right now, but to your left.
Oh, it was on.
Oh,
Now the light's on?
Yeah.
Is that better?
okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone need a paper copy? This was sent out electronically earlier today. Does anyone?
I didn't send it out. I didn't know if you were going to do it.
Justin did to.
Oh, it was, yeah, you sent it, Justin, to everybody.
That was
So everyone has received it. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I have paper copies if anyone.
Thank you,
wants
Amanda.
one to
That's
look
great.
at. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. All right. So we had another, I wanted to call it successful season at Vanderhay Waters. I'm going to say the word weather about 45 times in this presentation. So I want everybody to just kind of think back to how wet and cold this summer was. One of the things that marked success for Vanderhay Waters is we had 66 of the employees were returning staff from last year, and then specifically 73% of the lifeguarding staff was returning. In my eyes, that's a huge success because you just have well-trained staff year after year, and it's just a short stint, so it's difficult to train a whole brand new staff for 12 weeks and they forget everything. So as they return, everything's going a lot smoother year after year. A total of 73 operational days were originally budgeted for. So we usually schedule a little bit more than that depending on when the public school and the private school get out. So that's 99% of my staff. And then after school's out, I have some training and stuff that we have to do before we open. So the opening date depends on that. And then we always try to close right before the fair starts so we don't take anything away from the fair either. So 73 days of operation are in the budget. We scheduled 74, knowing that weather would be a factor in at least one weather closure. And then overall, we operated 68 out of the 74 days. And then we scheduled 7 operational hours per day as well. Admissions and concessions prices were kept the same in 2024 as in 2023. Overall, revenue did decrease by approximately $20,000. And although this seems alarming almost at first, the average daily revenue in 2023 was actually $3,300, and the average daily revenue in 2024 was $3,250. So if we're open, we're making approximately the same amount of money. And again, that's just an average over the whole season. Another thing that is good to point out is the shelter is being reserved for birthday parties and day camps. We also put a reservation of sorts on the books when we do programming there. So this year we had 34 reservations in that shelter compared to 25 last year. So that whether it's parties, day camps, programming, everything is kind of increasing there. So that's good. On this first page, I have a breakdown just of the 2022, 23 and 24 attendance revenue and expenses. You can look that over. If you have any questions, just holler. Regarding attendance, the average high temperature for summer of 2024 was 76.4 degrees, was the average high over the whole summer. Last year it was 79. So even though it's only seems like 3 degrees, you're talking mid 70s to almost 80s, and that is a huge difference when you're going to swim in a pool in water. So let's see. In addition to the average temperature, on the bottom of that second page, I put in a little chart of just how many days we had total in the 60s, the 70s, 80s, and 90s between both summers. And you can see a huge difference from the 60s and 70s this summer to the 80s and 90s. We had almost essentially the same amount in 60s and 70s as we did in the 80s and 90s last year. So just, I mean, attendance just directly correlated with the weather. We have, as far as operational hours go, so we take into account the scheduled hours, which is what I talked about in the beginning, how many hours, how many days we plan for, and then weather factors into that with some partial days here and there if we have to close earlier or open late. So although it seemed like we were closed a lot more this year, we were actually open 85% of the time that we had originally scheduled, which is the second highest in the history of the pool itself between Vandahay and HEFCO. So I count that as a success as well. At the bottom of page 3, there is a breakdown of the season pass scan-ins compared to day pass scan-ins. So we're trending in the right direction. We want to have more people scanning in with season pass. It's just easier on staff and money handling, essentially, because they purchase a season pass in our office before the season even starts, and then they're not paying a $6 day fee every time they go to the pool. Then I broke down the attendance by day of the week, thinking over time there should be some sort of trend, like Fridays are always our busiest day or something like that. And really there's not anything that matches from 2022 to 2024 at this point in time. The one thing that is consistent over the years is that week 10 and a half, or 10 to 11, and then the half of week 12 that we kind of talk about, it drastically drops down. So the beginning of August, the pool attendance is almost half, almost every single day. And it's visible like to the lifeguards and to the staff too. It's just high school sports starting and college kids leaving me. And I think it's an issue at the end of summer. I'm sure every city pool has something similar. In regards to revenue, I did break down kind of where all the sources of revenue are. Like I said before, it was down about $20,000 this year, but we had the same approximately per day revenue. And then we were really in line with the expected revenue for the summer. So, or for aquatics, sorry. The expected revenue to generate was $225,000 and we generated over $221,000. So it's pretty close to in line with that. Transaction breakdown, I really want to keep reiterating how important that is. There's a lot of cash handling that goes on there. And then there's a lot of technology use to process credit cards as well. So I'm just going to keep track of that over the years too. We're almost half and half to cash transactions versus credit transactions, where we started out at 70% cash transactions and 30% credit transactions. Obviously, we'd like to see more credit, so we're not handling as much cash. As far as operational expenses go, let's see. They were a little bit higher than what you would have expected for us to have been for the weather and for like how much we were open and how much we were closed. But first and foremost, we were actually under budget overall for the season. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. And then secondly, when you think about over time, the expenses, there's going to be increase year after year with just, the employees are going to get 50-cent raise every year that they come back. And I hope that they come back every year because that means we have well-trained staff. We did add a handful more employees to both lifeguards and attendants this year. It just helped a lot with scheduling. It seems like when one person asks off, half the staff asks off, and then we're kind of struggling to fill the schedule. So I did that. And then again, with the weather, last year when it was hot and dry, the sun heated the water for us. And when it never rained, the water stays more or less chemically balanced over time. You have to put less effort into getting that balanced for making it swimmable for the public. But this year with it cooler, it's, even if it's 76 degrees outside, that pool should be like over 80 degrees, 84 probably. So you're heating it with that. And then with all the rain we had, we're constantly pouring chemicals in there to balance it. So that is a huge expense as well. And then obviously just factor in inflation like all of us keep kind of talking about. So the gas, utilities, concessions prices, everything. So again, we were still under budget overall, but a little bit higher than expected. And then we did have a large tree fall and break a pretty expensive light in the parking lot. So that was a complete accident and during a storm that was completely unavoidable. Regarding the cost recovery, we were quite a bit under compared to last year. And a number I had last year was we ended up positive 9%. I did find some more numbers this year. The more I learn about these systems and can kind of figure things out, it's actually only plus 3% last year. So this year, even though the ratio is negative 17%, it's still in line with 2022, which was our first season, and it's still way better than HEFCO ever was before. So that's important to note. Regarding concessions, I've been asked time after time to offer healthy options, which I'm also passionate about for the general public and especially our youth. Healthy options do not sell. So I'm trying to brainstorm ways to get the healthier options out there and in front of people more so than the non-healthy options, but I kind of see where the trend is going to go anyways. I'll continue to offer it because I think it's important to have healthy options at a place like that. The top sellers last year and this year were ice cream and pretzels, basically. Last year was slushies, and then this year was soda as far as drinks, but our slushie machine broke, so I don't know how accurate that is. And then the healthy-ish options that I try to offer are fruit cups, peanuts, granola bars. They don't really sell that well. And then I gave a little staff summary. The pool manager hours stayed about the same from last year. Lifeguard hours had a slight increase and attendant hours had a slight decrease. I don't know how many of you know, but the health department and then the Department of Trade and Agriculture, Trade and Consumer, they regulate where the lifeguards kind of have to be. And one requirement change this year was a lifeguard at the top of the slide. I was going to make that change anyways because I wanted to make sure that people were following rules and sending people down only if they knew about the safety precautions. But then in the off season, they actually ended up making that law, I guess. So we had to make that change anyway. So now we have more lifeguards on duty at a time because one is at the top of the slide, and then less attendants on duty at a time because one is not at the top of the slide. And then head lifeguard hours, I will call it essentially the same, but I only had one this year compared to 2 last year. I put some information about the starting pay in there, but again, with almost 3/4 of the staff being returning staff, you have to factor in at least 50 cents or $1 for each person per hour different. And then there's a little summary at the end as well. So regarding the weather, obviously expenses were a little bit higher in just physically maintaining the water. The closures resulted in less revenue generated, but still approximately the same amount per day. And then we get a lot of questions about what type of additional programming goes on there. So we added multiple classes of aqua size with a drop-in rate. We do aqua Zumba classes with also a drop-in rate there. We did have adult lap swim, which is 16 and older, Monday through Saturday this year. And last year we just did Monday through Friday. Next year we'll just do it all 7 days. There's no reason not to. And then we scheduled 5 adaptive swim days this year when we only had 1 or 2 last year. We did have 2 dates of free swim this year. And then we had a farewell to summer event. We kind of wanted, with our department having the kickoff to summer at Wenzel Family Plaza, we wanted to try to tie in a farewell to summer at the end as well. So we took it and ran with it this year, but that will get more fun year after year as well. We did have a day where we honored Sophia Smers, who's our lifeguard that passed away last year. And then I run lifeguard certification classes at the beginning and at the end of the season. If it's the end of the season, I typically do a recert class. That way I can get them for 2 more years or 2 more summers. And then if it's at the beginning of the season and anyone needs to become a new lifeguard, that's when I would run that type of a class. And then our in-service trainings weekly as well. So it may look busy there even when we're not actually in operations, and that's some of the reasons why. I guess the closing point is that regardless of the weather, revenue, expenses, or even the occasional fecal incident, unfortunately, Vandahy Waters provides an invaluable service to this community, one that is accessible and safe and fun, and makes our community a more desirable and attractive place to live. Are there any questions?
Alderman Tompkins?
Thank you so much, Amanda. I just wondered from the tourism perspective, I know that you had said when you did this at Parks and Rec that there were daycares in Stevens Point that were renting the shelter.
Yep.
Could you just maybe tell the council about that?
Yeah, so there was a day camp that wanted to come, and they just asked if they could pay a day fee. So we have kind of like a bulk rate for this situation, where they just kind of tell us how many kids are coming. We give them the shelter essentially for free, but they're paying the day fee for all of the kids instead of paying the shelter fee at all. And then that's safer in my eyes, where they can kind of consolidate all the kids. But they just kind of schedule the days in early summer when they want to do that. There were a couple days where we had nearly 100 kids with that day camp. Typically it was like 20 or 30. But everything went well and the staff handled it just perfectly fine. So that's how that goes.
Thank you. And I think they went to the zoo before they went to the...
Yep. So they would plan a whole day. So they'd go like to the zoo tour and do a tour in the morning and then eat lunch at the park. And then they'd come to us after they ate lunch. So they weren't even really talking a ton of concessions or anything. But yeah, they traveled from Stevens Point, so.
That's awesome. I have 2 questions. What's the out-of-town fee? It's $6 for a resident of Marshfield. What is it for a day fee?
Everything is 1.5 times, so it's $9 for
Okay.
non-resident.
Do you happen, and if you don't, no worries, do you happen to know, like, percentage-wise, how many Marshfield residents use the pool and how many?
Not offhand, but I think I do have that number fairly readily available.
Thank you so much.
Too. Yeah.
Alderman Stauber?
Thank you for the presentation report. You have the misfortune of following a budget meeting.
Yeah.
So regarding the reservations, is that like a rental fee, a revenue generator for you? Or?
Yep. So they would call our office to book it just like a shelter in the park or a birthday party, or typically it's birthday parties there. I had some other good ideas already, like after the close of the season, to make that even a little bit more revenue generating for next year. Because typically the parties, in my eyes, I envisioned 60 kids for a birthday party. So we just rented the whole shelter. But I think next year we'll just look at it, cut the price down and maybe rent out tables under the shelter instead of the whole entire shelter.
And when it comes to some of the programming, like the aquatic exercise and stuff, is that a free program, or is that?
Nope, all of that is revenue generating stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
And then just focusing on the concessions, you have 2 employees working the concessions, dedicated to that. And the revenue generated last year was $55,650. So do you happen to know what the cost was just for the concession?
I don't have that number like on me right now, just because we kind of, the way our budget system works, it's under operating supplies, so it's kind of
Yeah.
falls in the mix
So-
of everything, but I can get it.
Yeah, that'd be good. And I don't mean you to wing it if you don't feel comfortable, but so the facility, Vanderhay Water's net loss was 39,440. Any idea what percentage might be for the concessions? Is that a
Not offhand, but I can
Okay.
definitely look at that, yep.
wing it there?
But just as a side note, I would say that the concessions is the place where most of the money is made. So there's going to be huge expenses still for the whole entire facility, and there's a huge expense for concessions, but really the place that's bringing in the majority of the money probably
Yeah.
as a profit, I guess I don't know what the right word is, but like
Yeah.
coming out ahead, I guess, is concessions.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of looking for the profit and loss,
Right.
all in employees and everything. And then you mentioned that you added employees in 2024. How many and what was the cost for that?
I think we had around 40 lifeguards last year and 58 this year. And then attendance, I think we had like 14 last year and I had 20. And I don't know how to answer about the cost associated with it. The only additional cost really would be the training of those employees because I still only have the same number of people on duty at a time. So
Okay.
preseason training for 58 lifeguards instead of
Okay. I get
40
it.
or however many. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, It's kind of a wash. You've got a larger pool, but no pun intended,
Yeah.
but a larger pool to draw from, but your outlay is about the same as it is year over year.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. No problem.
Alderman Werman?
Thank you. Natasha stole my thunder a little bit on that. I was going to ask about the non-residents and do we see certain trends? Like I know we have like a lot of, tournaments, baseball tournaments and things like that come through town. Do we see like an uptick in non-residents attending the pool during those days or those weekends or anything? I think that would be good to look at. And then I was just kind of curious if we have explored the idea of like possibly adding more family-based meals. And I guess I would probably rely on you a little bit, Amanda, to tell me whether or not like we actually have a lot of families or if it's more like kids being dropped off. But I'm thinking of like a family sitting at a table and, scanning a code or something and ordering and, having a pizza come out to them or something that will feed the family and possibly making money that way. So just kind of thinking of a few alternative options.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I'm not huge into the technology aspect of it, so I can kind of see where our IT department would stand with that. But I already had an idea to have at least some sort of combo meal separate for the birthday parties next year. And then we already talked actually today about having that just offered to the general public too, and different types of foods, not just always hot chicken tenders and pizza. So.
Any other comments or questions for Amanda? Amanda, thank you. Great job. Wonderful breakdown. That was grand. Thank you. Looking forward to next year.
Okay.
Thank you. Item N, presentation, Visit Marshfield Update, presented by Matt McLean, Executive Director.
Hello, thank you for having me. I think I want to make a couple brief announcements, then I have a little video for you guys. Excuse me, it doesn't really feel like fall yet, but it's already been a month since Fall Fest. I think last time I spoke to you was the week before Fall Fest, and just wanted to update that we had a great show, really great weather, great attendance, and everything went great. So much help from city staff and everybody, so just want to thank everybody for that. And I think you may have seen this, it kind of broke on the news last week, but Marshfield's going to be hosting the Dairyland Balloon Jubilee. Visit Marshfield is a major sponsor. We've been working with them. It's going to be hosted July 11th and 12th at the Sea Hafer Acres Farm. So we'll have, I think the current count is 32 balloons, and another great event for Marshfield. So now the video I want to show you, we actually have created a YouTube series. This is kind of a sneak peek. We haven't quite finished everything yet, but we're just going to try to activate some of our attractions and showcase YouTube video. We haven't done a ton on YouTube before, but it has a different audience than a lot of our social media and stuff. Skews pretty heavy female, and YouTube has a lot of younger audience and also more male audience. So we're going to kind of test the waters here and made some great videos. So you'll recognize recognize Nikki Anderson as the star of our show for utilizing her journalism background, and she's a good tourism supporter. So, Ang, if you want to go on the video there.
Did you know we have Kodiak bears, cougars, and bison right here in central Wisconsin? Hi, I'm Nikki on behalf of Visit Marshfield.
Exploring Wildwood Park and Zoo, who's been welcoming visitors for over 100 years. Come, let's take a look. Wildwood Park and Zoo is located just south of downtown off Central Avenue. The zoo was unofficially established in 1904. Fun fact, before a zookeeper was hired, it was Marshfield Mayor's responsibility to take care of the animals. Wildwood Park got its name in 1923, and the zoo was officially dedicated in July of 1930. One of the main attractions is twin Kodiak bears, Munzie and Boda. They are our biggest stars. There is a special bear viewing area at the zoo. Here at Wildwood Park and Zoo, we have many animals, including foxes, mountain lions, lynx, bobcats, birds such as eagles and screech owls, and much more. Wildwood Park and Zoo prides itself on the fact that most of the animals here are rehab animals. The Welcome Center has an interactive water display, electricity exhibit, and much more. The zoo is also home to sensory gardens with a variety of plants that encourage visitors to listen, touch, and smell. The large animal drive gives visitors an opportunity to drive around the upper pond at the park and see herd animals like bison, elk, wolves, and white-tailed deer. Wildwood Park is also home to many popular hiking and biking trails. Thank you for joining me on another Marshfield adventure. Be sure to check out our videos on other unique attractions.
Thank you. Now I'll jump into a brief presentation here. Thank you, Ang. Okay. I kind of just wanted to start off kind of a brief overview of kind of who we are, what we do, and how we operate. So Marshfield, Visit Marshfield is a 501c6 nonprofit with a board of 6 members and a staff of 2. Would like to say hi to my board members here, Mike, Scott, and Al. Thank you guys for coming tonight. Our mission statement is to attract visitors to Marshfield through marketing, development of attractions, and events to create economic impact. And our funding is primarily hotel room tax based on the state statute. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Sorry, just figuring this out. I just wanted to briefly go over some of how the room tax state statute and some of the definition. Tourism means travel for recreational purposes, business, or educational purposes. A tourism entity is a nonprofit organization that came into existence before January 1st, 2015, spends at least 51% of its revenues on tourism promotion, tourism development, and provides destination marketing staff and services for the tourism industry in a municipality. Tourism promotion and tourism development means many of the following that are significantly used by transient tourists and reasonably likely to generate paid overnight stays at more than one establishment, which the tax is under. Marketing projects, including advertising, media buys, creation and distribution of printed or electronic promotional tourist materials, or efforts to recruit convention, sporting events, or motor coach groups. So these are things that we all do. Next up, this is kind of a brief overview of how room tax can be spent. So 30% can go to the municipality, and that is the city currently has a code that goes to Parks and Rec capital developments, and then at least 70% must be spent on tourism promotion and tourism development. And then what expenditures are eligible? And really, you want to answer yes to all three of these when making the decision of where room tax dollars is spent. Is it reasonably likely to generate paid overnight stays in multiple lodging properties? Will it be significantly used by transient tourists? Will it be a marketing project, tourism information, or tangible municipal development? So that's kind of an overview on how room tax dollars is. I wanted to talk a little bit about financial stability. Visit Marshfield is stable. Many CVBs had layoffs and struggled mightily during the pandemic. Visit Marshfield, we made a reserve policy to have 6 months of operating expenses and reserves, as many CVBs did around the state, some up to a year in reserve. Visit Marshfield aggressively pursued and received over $500,000 in grants between 2020 and 2023. So we worked really hard on that. We have increased our marketing budget for 2020 and 2024 by 33%, and again plan to increase it in 2025. So the vast majority of all room tax dollars collected have gone to marketing Marshfield businesses, events, and attractions. All right, we'll shift gears here a little bit. I always want to talk about the tourism industry as a whole. We kind of got some of this data in June, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention here. So the total impact of tourism in Wisconsin was $25 billion, and there's 178,000 and change jobs, and it created $1.6 billion in taxes. The state grew 5.4% in visitor spending. And then that's the total economic impact. And then it grew 5% in visitor spending. Just a little bit about how that money is spent. It really, if you look at the item on the right there, only about 25%, 27.4% is spent on the lodging. So really almost over 73% is spent on food, beverage, retail, all the other elements. And then seasonally, you can see here that the third quarter, the summer vacations, is kind of really when the majority of the dollars are spent. And then this is kind of showing the impacts. You can see that the industry took about a 25% hit of employees during the pandemic and still hasn't really got back up to the normal operating levels of the employment from 2019. Just to put a couple of these numbers in context, the impact for economic impact is over $25 billion, is more than the revenue for the NFL. The 178,000 jobs is more than the 7th largest county in Wisconsin, Winnebago County, all the people that live there. And then also the $1.6 billion in state and local taxes is really every person gets a $660 kind of off their tax bill related to tourism spending. Now, how these numbers kind of hit our area here is Wood County had $211 million in total economic impact. Marshfield has about 60% of the hotel rooms of Wood County. So I estimated that our impact here was $126.6 million, and that was a 6.6% change. So that's up above the state average of 5.4%. And then also the direct visitor spending of $110 million in 2023 was 7% higher than 2022, again, higher than the state average of 5%. And as I mentioned before, you can see the employment numbers haven't quite rebounded. We have about the same amount of employees from 2022 to 2023 in the service, but there's over 1,200 people that are kind of in the tourism industry in the Marshfield area. There's a couple things that just statistics, as we talked about the zoo and the pool here. There were over 180,000 vehicles through the large animal drive. So I don't think that was all Marshfield people driving it 9 times, right? There were over 35,000 people attending Vandahay Waters, and over 18,000 were tracked going inside the Wildwood Zoo, as well as 14 concerts at the Hub City. Also, too, the use of our fields for tournaments and events. Soccer fields got used over 250 times. Baseball and softball were used. Fields were used a lot as well. Let's go into some more data. I'll try not to bury you too much. But we had over 100,000 visitors to our website in 2023 with over 200,000 views. And also the average session was up 33%, so people are spending a longer amount of time on our website. And you can see the top 5 cities, Chicago, Wausau, and Milwaukee are there. And then also the audience, the ages of our audience online there. Our social media statistics. I just looked yesterday. Currently, Wausau has about 7,200 followers on their Facebook, and Wisconsin Rapids has 3,600. And so we have almost 28,000 followers. So if you combine the two of those, it's almost 3 times the amount of people watching our traffic versus those other area competitors. You can also see that we had 3.5 million Facebook impressions in 2023, and our reach was almost 700,000 people. And our Instagram audience is growing as well. We doubled our Instagram reach year over year. And then these are just for the fourth quarter statistics, the first and second quarter of 2024. So we had about 50,000 users use our website. And their duration keeps going up. You can see again, Chicago and Milwaukee are some of the audiences that we hit a lot. And then, let me go on here. I wanted to jump into also to just kind of how we showcase and promote our partners. So I won't go through every one of these on this screen here, but between the Main Street, Wenzel Family Plaza, Wildwood Zoo, and the Central Wisconsin State Fair, just in the first 2 quarters of this year, we've spent $27,600 marketing Marshfield through our social media channels, getting that audience value. And then the Wenzel Family Plaza, $8,400, Wildwood Zoo, $8,400, and approximately $2,400 for the Central Wisconsin State Fair. All right. And then we actually gave out $19,000 in grants this year, so it's up 30% from 2023. And so on the screen here, you can see those organizations and events and activities that we gave grants to. Some final thoughts. I did want to remind you that we did give $20,000 to the Marshfield Fair for electrical repairs, and also just recently $50,000 towards the lights at the pickleball project. So we're excited about that. I'm going to work with them for tournaments, bringing them to town. And then also we're working, continuing the economic development strategic plan. So we had 9 items highlighted that we've been kind of working on with the city and partners through the years, and we're continuing to do that. And then one last thought, my board kind of asked me, hey, Matt, how much room tax did we collect like the first year that you were kind of here? And I started in 2013, so this is the year before, and it was $165,325. And then in 2023, it was $501,279. So we have more than triple collections. So that also means 3 times the amount of money going to Parks and Rec for projects. So at that, I would open the floor for questions, and thank you for having me.
Alderman Tompkins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for all the marketing you do for Marshfield. That's important, and you're doing a good job with that. I have a list of questions. Do you know, so you, in 2023, you brought in $500,000 from hotel room taxes. What is 6 months of your operating expenses?
It's about $220,000.
Okay. And so, in 1 year, your operating expenses are about $400,000.
The last couple of years, we budgeted about $400 to $450, and we've gone over the budget. The collections have been higher, so we've been blessed.
Okay, and how much do you have in reserve right now?
Right now, we have about $700,000 with the $500,000 in grants that were received over the 3-year period, and then our reserve funding.
Okay.
And we also have been discussing tourism development fund, and one of the projects we're looking at is the Drostic Park project.
Okay. So when we were going through the list of requests for the 205 fund, which is the Economic Development Fund, and that's the fund that the pickleball lights came out of, didn't come out of operating budget, just to clarify that. One of the things that Main Street Marshfield requested money for was promotion. And the promotion that they were talking about was mainly tourism promotion, with having good photography for their site, for having clings to the windows so that when people do come downtown, it doesn't look like empty buildings, things like that. And I'm just wondering how much money, not marketing, how much money do you grant to Main Street Marshfield every year?
We actually haven't received any grant requests from them for the last couple of years. But as I mentioned before, we did about $28,000 of marketing value for them in the first 2 quarters of this year.
And I think that what I heard was the reason that they haven't applied for grants is that you only give $1,000 and it's almost not worth writing the grant.
This last year, we upped that to $1,500.
Okay. I would highly request that your board does look at that and consider funding most of Main Street Marshfield's promotions, because that is very tourism recommended. And you are doing well and you are receiving a lot from hotels. So that would be one item I would ask that you guys look at. Okay, so in your budget in 2023, how much money, because you do this promotions and stuff, how much money did you actually give to tourism sites like the zoo or the pool?
We typically don't just give money to them, we market and promote them.
Okay. So that would be another request that I would ask your board to look at, is not just marketing, because as you might have noticed in the budget meeting that we just had, we are struggling to keep these facilities up to date. We are struggling to do maintenance. And so if we have an entity in town that's supposed to support tourism and we have sites where people are coming, then we need some of those dollars to help with that, with the operating expenses, with keeping, we have high school students, thankfully, who are helping to rebuild shelters in our zoo, but they need funds. We have one zoo staff person who cannot even, the stress of taking care of all those animals from one full-time person. So to your board, please start looking at giving donations, actual dollars to these sites. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments for Matt? Matt, thank you for the report. Yes,
Sorry.
Alderman Stubber, right under the button
I
again.
know,
Here we
I
go.
know. It's just my style.
Yeah, I know.
Always
Yeah,
late and
makes me
back
look
to
bad,
line.
right? Yeah, come on.
Nice job, Matt.
Thank you,
I
Russ.
appreciate the statistics, answering questions on the fly. That's impressive. And Natasha, thanks for your passion. Out of the box thinking that we need to generate additional revenue. 2 questions related to the fairgrounds. At the Fair Commission meeting, this is something I didn't realize, but Bill Christensen, the manager of the fairgrounds, will often get phone calls from people out of the blue saying, I'll be in Marshfield tomorrow. Could you allow me to walk into the round barn, the world's largest round barn? And I don't know if that's an opportunity for you, to coordinate that, but Dale essentially drops what he's doing to accommodate the visitors who drive from who knows where just to walk in the round barn. And the other question I have for you, Matt, is when we're looking at the new Expo building, big price tag item.
Exactly.
Does your board keep that on their radar as far as how you might help move that project forward or spread the news on that? Because it's kind of, presented by MSA and it just kind of sat there and I don't get an impression anyone's really taking it by the horn, if you will.
Yeah, I did present that to my board and we have looked at it. It's definitely probably worth talking about again and looking at, possibilities and how that could maybe come to fruition in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Russ. And I will talk with Dale more. I've had that same thing. If there's a way we can set up more tours for the round barn, that would be great.
Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
Item O, request to approve health insurance contracts with Security Health Plan for employees for calendar year 2025, presented by Sarah Dressel, Human Resources Director.
Good evening, everyone. So this year, for our health plan renewal with Security Health Plan, they initially did come back with a 1.3% increase. We did request through Brown and Brown that they provide us with a 0% increase for 2025. They did agree to do that. So this year, rates will remain the same for 2025 as they were in 2024. And just as a reminder, that last year, they did come in, under what we had had the previous year. So we're on a very good trend overall. Currently, we have about 139 employees who are taking healthcare benefits. 39 of those are on a single plan, while 100 are on a family plan. I kind of broke out how many are on Premier Plan versus Simply One. The one thing I did want to note is for 2025, the IRS did come back and once again increase the deductible amounts. These are not something that we basically can control. The IRS does control that. So this year, for a single plan, it is moving from $3,200 to $3,300, so that $100 increase. And then for family plans, moving from $6,400 to $6,600, so a $200 increase from last year. So with that, I am requesting approval to renew the health plan for 2025 with Security Health Plan, continuing to offer employees 2 high deductible health plans, the Premier Plan and the Simply One Plan.
We have a motion by Alderman Stauber, second by Alderman Varsho. Alderman Spiros? You have a question? Or you were gonna make a motion, help? Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you. Item number P, request to approve dental insurance contracts with Delta Dental for calendar year 2025, presented by Sarah Dressel, Human Resources Director.
Thank you. So you will see a theme through all of these tonight. We are very lucky, once again, to have a contract with Delta Dental that is going to see a 0% increase for employees and for the employer contributions. So with that, staff is requesting approval of the dental insurance renewal with Delta Dental effective January 1, 2025.
A motion by Alderman Varsho, second by Alderman Tompkins. Any other discussion? Alderman Spiros?
Yes, regarding Delta Dental, is this a widely accepted plan in Marshfield? And the only reason I'm asking that is because I know that my dental office has stopped accepting Delta Dental. And I was talking to my girlfriend because I was looking at switching places, and she said the same thing for their dental office. Both of these offices are large practices in the city of Marshfield, and they both are no longer accepting Delta Dental as of the first of the year.
So that is correct. We're seeing that actually with a lot of dental offices. They're kind of moving more towards internal plans for themselves versus going with the large carrier type of situation for accepting insurance. However, 2 of the places that a lot of our employees go, and I'm forgetting the major place that a lot of people go, but one of the dental offices actually, what they do is they don't necessarily accept Delta Dental, but what they do is they take that into account as far as the costs go. So I mean, there is a little bit of a benefit still to at least having insurance. It's basically you're paying the difference between what the insurance company would pay versus what the cost would be. That being said, we did reach out to Delta Dental. They are continuing to kind of review things. I think they've overall been pretty open with us that they're trying to work with more of the providers in the area. But overall, as far as the insurance and the cost, it's still the better of the benefits when we looked at overall costs for dental insurance.
Anything else, Alderman Spiros?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros,
No.
That motion passes. Item Q, request to approve vision insurance contracts with National Vision Administration for calendar year 2025, presented by Sarah Dressel, Human Resources Director.
Thank you. So for our vision plan, this is an additional year where we have a separate standalone plan. We changed that in 2023. It used to be kind of a combination with our health insurance. Having it separate, it allows employees to choose whether or not they want to have it year over year. This year, NVA again presented us with a 0% increase, so we're keeping the cost for 2025 the same as the past 2 years. And then we'll be looking at that in future years. So staff is recommending approval of the annual insurance rates for the vision plan through NVA for 2025.
We have a motion by Alderman Tompkins, second by Alderman Giles. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros,
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you. Request to approve dependent care flexible spending account contract with Employee Benefits Corporation for calendar year 2025, presented by Sarah Dressel, Human Resources Director.
Thank you. So this is the last of the benefits that are up for renewal. So EBC is the company that we work with, Employee Benefits Corporation. For this year, the only change is really in their administrative costs. For 2025, the annual renewal fee remains at $450, but the administrative costs increase from $50 to $60. And then there was an additional processing fee of $448 per month. So the total increase per month will be $14.48, or an annual increase of $173.76. This plan basically is for employees to put money aside for any dependent care needs that they have. Those are, it's a great benefit for employees as far as tax reductions and things like that go. So staff is recommending approval to renew the dependent care flexible spending account through EBC for 2025.
We have a motion by Alderman Varsho, second by Alderman Tompkins. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros,
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Sarah. And one more time, thank you, Sarah. Item S, appointment of a successor to complete the unexpired term of Alderperson for Council District Number 5 through April 2026. The following person has indicated interest in the position, presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, as I think council knows, we were taking applications, people interested in the position, with Ed Wagner having resigned from the council recently. As of the deadline, the only person we heard from is Scott Cran. And so I'd like to have him put up for consideration, and I'd like to invite him if he'd like to make some comments about his candidacy right now.
There's supposed to be a light that comes on?
Is it red?
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you've all received my letter of interest. I just wanted to put a person to the letter. I've been pretty much a lifelong resident of Marshfield my entire life, except for a few years when I went to UW Eau Claire and graduated in information systems. I did an internship in Appleton and lived in Green Bay for a little under a year. Been one of the owners of Rogers Cinemas since 2011. I've worked there since 2000. I've been a Main Street board member. I've been part of Visit Marshfield. Whenever there's been an opportunity to step up and serve the city in some fashion, I've tried, and I'd like to do that as a council member. So that's me.
Thank you. Thank you for stepping up also, Scott. Yes, Alderman Spiros?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and to appoint Mr. Coran to the Marshfield Common Council. I feel like suspending the rules is justified in this case. although I know that Andrew hates that. But just tonight, we've seen some problems with making sure we have enough people at each meeting. And since no other candidates applied and there's no more time for them to apply, I don't know why we would wait on this.
Mrs. Spiros, actually, our code does not allow for suspension of rules for this particular vacancy.
Oh, well then forget it.
But Rebecca, thank you for trying. You're right. Andrew, naughty boy. Yeah. Again, thank you very much, Scott, for stepping up.
Foreman.
Yes, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Well, maybe before. Item T, appointment of Rita Meyer, 1814 West Andrea Street, to the Plan Commission to fill an unexpired term ending in April 2026. And I do have to say one thing before we start. We only had 6 members and we had a tie vote. So the tie was not able to be broken, which was really too bad, wasn't it, Mike? Absolutely, yes, sir. So please, when some questions are asked, and I wish that I would have explained just a little bit more about the Plan Commission, because you can't just have the meeting the next day, and I'm not going to beat the dead horse, but I thought I explained myself well enough because we really needed that 7th person regardless. So just take heed if this happens again. If I bring it up, I will bore you with the details of a 15-minute reason why we need to suspend the rules. And Rebecca, thank you for trying with that. Absolutely. So is there a motion to, yes, there is, by Alderman O'Reilly, second by Alderman Varsho. And I didn't mean to pick on you, Andrew. I apologize, but I don't, because we really needed that 7th person. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. We will see Rita next month at the Plan Commission meeting. Item U, suggested items for further agendas. Alderman Stalbert?
On the heels of a second budget meeting, I would like to, and discussion about alternative revenues and trying to find partners to help us manage some of the facilities that we have. I would like to request that the administrator find a third party to come and talk to us about the options for brokering energy. In other words, a municipally owned utility as opposed to privately owned utility.
Any other further agendas? Seeing none, we'll move on to item V, adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin Statute Chapter 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Develop agreement for project located in TIF District Number 12. We have a motion by Alderman O'Reilly, second by Alderman Giles. Please vote to go into closed session.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Sure, yep.
We are in closed session. Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute recess.